Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus came to the territory of the Gadarenes, 2 demoniacs were coming from the tombs to meet him. They were so savage that no one could travel by that road. They cried out, "What have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the appointed time?" Some distance away, a herd of many swine was feeding. The demoniacs pleaded with him, "If you drive us out, send us into that herd of swine." And he said to them, "Go then." They came out and entered the swine, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, where they drowned. The swineherders ran away, and when they came to the town, they reported everything, including what had happened to the demoniacs. Thereupon, the whole town came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they begged him to leave their district. The Gospel of the Lord. It's funny that this passage should come out the day following Independence Day, because this is a passage about a place that has become so intent on being independent and celebrating their independence that they have literally swallowed a bite of the apple from the garden with Eve and made themselves independent from God. They are a pagan territory. They have nothing to do with God. The law isn't obeyed there. The name of God is not spoken. And St. Matthew, who writes from the perspective of a Jew, is telling you that one of the great sources of their economy are pigs, the most unclean, ungodly food a Jew can even imagine. And so, in other words, the source of their economy is something that is extremely detestable to anybody. You could say that this is a place that's gone so far with their independence from God that they have literally become insane. Does this sound familiar? Welcome to America. Not that we should have independence from tyranny and oppression, but our founding fathers did not intend us to have independence from God. And what you see here in this passage is a culture that has become so far from God and so disfigured that her people don't seem to be disturbed by people who appear to be possessed and filled with evil. And her people enjoy the commerce of about the most unclean thing. I would make it analogous today with how, for example, the whole industry of pornography goes unchecked in our culture. I find that even most interesting when you look at the industry of pornography and how it totally violates the beauty and the dignity of women. And where is the women's rights movement on this topic? They are silent because they have become swine quietly grazing, comfortable in their little pagan milieu. And so Jesus now enters into the scene. And Jesus, you could say, comes in here, this pagan territory, and he's there with intent. It's not by accident that he goes in there, but he comes into this pagan territory, and what he is doing in a sense is he is declaring to the evil one that his borders are no longer to be respected. There is a king here who is mightier and greater. The demoniacs represent disfigured humanity, completely made inhumane by evil and the rejection of God. Now, and what's interesting here is when you read this passage, it says that they rushed home and they reported everything that happened, including what happened to the demoniacs. In other words, the pigs were more important to these people than their brothers, their brother human beings who had been afflicted and tormented by evil. That didn't matter. Our economy is what matters here. They are so far gone. And so the possessed men say, send us into that herd of swine. And so that swine, they're going to be most comfortable in that herd of swine because that is the culture that has so gone into evil. So they're going to be most comfortable there. So they're saying, let us go there. We're welcome there. We'll be happy there, and you'll be rid of us. Okay. Have you come here to torment us? Yes, he has. And it's his very presence that torments them. It is Christ who is tormenting. It is Christ who is exercising his rule. And so in the midst of this pagan territory, he is making an incursion. And he does the same thing here through the Eucharist, through the sacrament of reconciliation, through the army of baptized in whom Christ is living, who make an uncalculable difference in the world, in the confrontation of evil. In other words, we're the representatives of Christ, literally confronting the power of evil just by the fact that we exist as baptized. Now, before you get too worried and nervous, okay, let me give you the picture of what this pagan territory looks like, because this is the secret to how we are defended and preserved, okay? As I said earlier, the name of God is not invoked, perhaps unless it's a curse, and the Lord's name is taken in vain. The law is not obeyed. So in other words, there's no understanding for a hierarchy of morality and spirituality, and there's no view at all toward God. It's completely all about me. And when you look at the two demoniacs and see how despicable and corrupted they are, you can see that the vision of what's excellent and beautiful and good is not very fantastic. So if I pray, if I receive the sacraments, if I'm in touch with Jesus, if I'm faithful to the Sabbath, if all these things are happening in my life, I become Jesus who confronts the evil. The evil could not touch him. And nor does it touch those. It may harass us, but it can't touch us and invade us and disfigure us as these two demoniacs we find in the gospel today. This culture has gone into an insanity because Jesus, who's the way, the truth, and the life, is not welcomed. And yet Jesus intrudes in this culture and declares that their borders are no longer secure. And although the church seems to be receding a little bit around the world, we have been assured that not even the gates of hell will prevail against us. There may be a little quiet before the storm. Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life, is seen to this culture of demoniacs as the villain and the enemy. And so we're called to choose sides. You, however, are part of a culture of God's kingdom, aren't you, by baptism? And the territory of the Gadareans is the vision of a culture that surrounds us now. And yet, Jesus and his disciples are not the kingdom of this world. As Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. We are the kingdom of the great and mighty King, aren't we? And therefore, it is vital for our country and for us to continue to sustain the vision of the kingdom of Jesus Christ, isn't it? One could argue that it's the most patriotic thing that anybody could do.
Regina Celi,